Blood. That is what this story is really about. Not reflection, not vanity. Blood. Ancient Greece. Sunset. A doorstep. The air is still, the street empty. White stones glowing orange and red. A young man stands there holding a sword. Inside the house, he can hear movement. The man he loves, Narcissus, the most beautiful man in all of Greece. The young man speaks to the gods. Make him feel what I feel. Make him love something he can never have. Make him understand this pain. The sword enters his chest. Blood runs hot, pooling on white stone. His body collapses against the door. The thud echoes into the house. Inside, Narcissus hears it, knows a man is dying on his doorstep because of him. He does not open the door. You use the word narcissist every day. Instagram influencers, selfie culture, people who love themselves too much. You think you know where that word comes from. Guy falls in love with his reflection, dies staring at water. Simple moral about vanity. But that doorstep, the sword, the blood, the dying prayer, ancient text buried for 2,000 years. Someone erased it. This is Pandora's project. The seals are breaking. Every myth you know has a darker, buried version. Subscribe to see what else was hidden, and comment which tomb you want to open next. And Narcissus is no exception. The ancient Greeks told 3 completely different versions of Narcissus. 3 authors, 3 wildly different tales, same beautiful boy, same deadly pool. And we kept only one, the safest one. The one where the blood is cleaned up, and a very important detail about who loved Narcissus is carefully removed. The dying man's name was Ameinias. The gods heard every single word of his prayer. 3 versions of this story exist. Only one survived the monks who decided which stories the world would remember. The safe version. The version without blood on doorsteps or men dying for men. Part 1. The Echo. Let me show you what they taught you first. Around 8 in the Common Era, a Roman poet named Ovid wrote the version everyone knows. The one in textbooks. The one that survived because it asked no uncomfortable questions. A mountain nymph named Echo sees Narcissus walking through the forest and falls in love the moment she sees him. She follows him through the trees, desperate to speak to him. But Echo is cursed. She can only repeat the last words anyone else says. She cannot speak her own words, cannot express her own thoughts. Narcissus realizes someone is following him and calls out, "Is anyone there?" Echo can only repeat his words back to him. "Anyone there? Anyone there?" Finally, gathering all her courage, Echo steps out of the shadows and tries to embrace him. Narcissus shoves her away, his face twisted with disgust. "Do not touch me. I would rather die than let you have me." And Echo can only whisper back his own cruel words, "Let you have me. Let you have me." He leaves her there, broken and humiliated. Echo begins to fade until nothing is left except her voice, repeating forever the last words she heard. The goddess Nemesis sees this cruelty and decides on divine justice. She leads Narcissus to a pool in the forest where the water is perfectly still, like glass. Narcissus bends down to drink and sees a face in the water. Beautiful, perfect, more beautiful than anything he has ever seen. He reaches for it, and it reaches back. But when his fingers touch the surface, the image ripples and disappears. Hours pass, then days. Narcissus cannot leave the pool. He cannot stop staring, cannot stop reaching. He does not eat or drink. His body grows weak. And slowly, he realizes the terrible truth. The face is his own reflection. The thing he wants most is himself, and he can never have it. He wastes away by the pool. Finally, he speaks one last time, "Goodbye." And somewhere in the mountains, Echo's voice repeats him one final time, "Goodbye, goodbye." Narcissus dies. When the nymphs come to bury him, his body is gone. In its place, they find a white flower with a golden center. They named it Narcissus. And Echo's voice still whispers through caves, forever repeating the name of the man who destroyed her. Clear villain, clear victim, clear moral. Do not love yourself too much. Do not be cruel to those who love you. Safe enough for schools, simple enough for psychology books, empty enough to describe Instagram culture. But notice what is missing. No blood, no male lover, no pagan sacrifice, just vanity and echoes. Everything sanitized, everything safe. The real version is older, and it involves a male lover, a doorstep, and a prayer the gods could not ignore. Part 2. The Sword. Now let me show you what was buried. 50 years before Ovid ever picked up his pen, a Greek scholar named Conon wrote something very different, something that made Christian monks extremely uncomfortable, something they tried to erase. That doorstep, that blood, that young man with the sword, his name was Ameinias. He was not a nymph or a goddess. He was a man, a young man from the same city as Narcissus. And he loved Narcissus desperately, completely, the way people love when they are young and have not yet learned how to protect themselves from their own hearts. But Narcissus did not love him back. Narcissus did not love anyone. He was so beautiful that everyone who saw him fell in love with him, men and women both, and he rejected every single one of them. Not kindly, not with regret, with contempt, with cruelty, as if their love disgusted him. Ameinias kept coming back. He could not help it. He would stand outside Narcissus's house, waiting, hoping that today would be different, that today Narcissus would finally see him. But Narcissus only grew more cruel. One day, he sent Ameinias a gift, a sword. No words, no letter, just cold steel wrapped in cloth. Ameinias understood. He walked to Narcissus's doorstep at sunset, raised the sword, and spoke that prayer you heard at the beginning, the prayer to make Narcissus feel what he felt. Then Ameinias drove the sword into his own chest. His blood soaked the white stones. His body collapsed against the door. Inside, Narcissus heard it, knew exactly what had just happened, and did not open the door. The gods heard every word of that prayer, and they answered. The next day, Narcissus walked to a pool in the forest to drink. The water was perfectly still. When he bent down, he saw a face more beautiful than anything he had ever seen. He reached for it. It reached back. But when his fingers touched the surface, the image ripples and disappeared. He tried again, and again, and again. He could not stop. Hours turned to days. Narcissus knelt by the pool, staring, reaching, whispering to the reflection. Please, please do not leave. Stay. I need you. Please. But every time he touched the water, the face vanished. Narcissus realized, eventually, that the face was his own, that he had fallen in love with his reflection, that the thing he wanted most in the world was himself, and he would never be able to touch it, never be able to hold it, never be able to possess it. He wasted away by that pool, unable to leave, unable to stop staring. And when he finally died, His last thought was of the face in the water, the face he could never have. Ameinias got his revenge. The gods made Narcissus love something impossible, made him reach for something that vanished when touched, made him understand, finally, what it felt like to want something so desperately that it destroyed you. This is the version Conon wrote, 50 years before Ovid, 50 years before Echo, 50 years before the cursed nymph and the clear moral lesson. This version is not about vanity. It is about cruelty, about rejection as violence, about what we owe to those who love us. And it is about a male lover, a man loving another man, a man dying for another man, a man's prayer for revenge being heard by the gods. Part 3. The Blood Offering. But there is a third version that made them even more uncomfortable. In the 1st century before the Common Era, a poet named Parthenius wrote a version with no echo, no Ameinias, no love at all, just debt and blood and hungry earth. The version the church wanted destroyed. A sacred grove in ancient Greece, trees so old their roots crack stone, a shrine in the center where people leave offerings, flowers, wine, prayers. But this grove demands something more. Narcissus is born beautiful, more beautiful than any child before him. His parents know this beauty is not natural, not human. It is a gift from something in the grove, from the earth itself. And borrowed beauty always comes with a price. When Narcissus is old enough to understand, his parents take him to the grove and tell him the truth. He must make an offering. Blood. His blood. Just a little. Enough to remind the earth where his beauty came from. Narcissus refuses. He looks at the altar, at the dark stains from offerings made over centuries, and he speaks, "I am too beautiful to bleed." He stops visiting the grove. He ignores the warnings. And the earth, patient and hungry, waits. One day, Narcissus is walking alone and comes to a pool in the forest. The water is dark and still. When he looks down, he sees his reflection. But something is wrong. The reflection is too perfect, too bright. It moves when he is still. It smiles when he does not. Narcissus leans closer. "What are you?" The reflection does not answer, just stares back at him with his own face, but wrong somehow. Too perfect, too alive. Narcissus realizes, too late, that this is not a reflection. This is the earth, showing him what he refused to pay for. His beauty, separated from his body, staring back at him from the water. A vision of what he owes. He reaches for it. The image vanishes. He reaches again. It disappears again. He cannot stop reaching. Cannot stop trying to claim back what was never truly his. Days pass. Narcissus kneels by the pool, staring, reaching, desperate. His body begins to fail. And when he finally dies, his blood soaks into the ground around the pool. The debt is paid. Not in offering, but in full. The earth collects what it was owed. And where Narcissus's blood touched the soil, white flowers bloom. This version is not about love or vanity or cruelty. It is about hubris, about thinking you own something that was only ever borrowed, about refusing to pay what you owe until the debt consumes you. 3 authors, 3 completely different stories. Same beautiful boy, same pool, same death, but entirely different meanings. And this one, with its pagan sacrifice and blood offerings to hungry earth, faced a simple choice when monks decided what to preserve. Nymph and reflection? Copy it. Male lover? Erase it. Pagan blood ritual? Burn it. 3 versions? 2 buried. 1 sanitized. Part 4. The pattern. Here is why they erased it. This fear of reflections is older than any Greek version. The Egyptians believed your ko'o, your soul, could be stolen by still water, that something might reach up through your reflection and replace you. The Celts warned that water spirits showed you a perfected version of yourself as bait, then drowned you while wearing your face. Every ancient culture had the same warning. If you stare at your reflection too long, something stares back. But the Greeks did not just warn, they argued. 150 years after Ovid, a Greek traveler named Parthenius read Ovid's version and literally wrote, "This is utter stupidity. Any man old enough to fall in love knows the difference between himself and his reflection." Then Parthenius told his own version, about a boy grieving his dead twin sister and staring at his reflection to see her face. The Greeks were not looking for one truth. They were debating desire, beauty, rejection, death, competing versions lasting centuries. That was the point. The arguing was the point. So why does the world only know one? Because Ovid's is the easiest to sanitize. Clear villain, clear victim, clear moral that can be taught in schools and turned into psychology terms. But Conon's version is queer and violent, about a male lover, and asks uncomfortable questions about rejection as violence. Parthenius's version involves blood sacrifice and ritual offering, the earth as a hungry god demanding payment for borrowed beauty. Those versions are harder to simplify, harder to teach, harder to turn into a lesson. So they were erased. Not lost. Erased. By people with pens and power and very specific ideas about which stories deserve to survive. The world did not just lose 2 versions. The world lost the understanding that myths are supposed to be contested, that stories evolve, that there is never just one truth. Narcissism became about selfies and vanity. But the buried version? It was about cruelty, rejection as violence, what we owe those who love us. And it was about queer love that was real, desperate, deadly. In ancient Greece, that was normal. In Christian Europe, it was erased. The straight version survived. The cursed nymph, the reflection, the vain boy who loved himself. White stones at sunset, blood pooling on a doorstep, a young man with a sword in his hand. His name was Ameinias, and for 2,000 years, nobody told his story. Nobody mentioned the blood offering in the sacred grove. Nobody talked about the earth collecting its debt. Nobody preserved the ancient authors calling each other stupid across centuries. All of that was sealed away. One clean version placed on top. The safe one, the teachable one, the one we called truth. Final part, the unsealing. 3 versions of Narcissus. 3 completely different stories about the same beautiful boy who died staring at water. One about a male lover and divine revenge. One about blood sacrifice and hungry earth. One about a cursed nymph and cruel rejection. And we buried 2 of them for 2,000 years. Every week on Pandora's Project, we unseal one myth they tried to erase. Subscribe so you do not miss what we dig up next. And comment which version shocked you most. The truth was never simple. The originals were never safe, but they were always more interesting than what they taught you. The seals are broken. The tomb is open. Let's see what else they buried. Until next time.